Right. Do you think any of the salary driven things nowadays have a big thing on it to make that film? You know, hey, I made that lick on that guy. You remember that? You need to pay me for that. You know that hit or whatever. You're going to pay me in the long run.
Absolutely.
I think that's huge.
Guys will use as a defense. If I don't bring this man down, I'll get taken off the field and cut. But I'll ask you guys this, Daniel and Ben. Who do you hear about more, players who are repeat offenders with these tackling rules or the 90% of all other quarterbacks and safeties and free safeties in the league who play the game the right way?
That's exactly right. You make a great point. I mean, you hear way more about people on these dirty players, and I wouldn't even say just dirty tackle. I think dirty players in general. Like, how many times have you heard Ndamukong Suh's name over the past 3 or 4 years? Nick Fairley, people like that. I think it's just a matter of just playing a dirty player in general. You hear more about them, and I mean, now that we're I guess that could be another segment as far as talking about dirty players in the NFL, because you can pretty much tack up the Detroit Lions front line to go with that. But I mean, that's a good point, though. That's a good point, talking about how players who may be afraid to lose their position. If you're just playing your position and you're playing it cleanly, you may not have a top 10 big hit, but if you're doing your job, coaches are going to realize that, and you'll keep your spot. Unlike these players that you're talking about, you're playing dirty. They're, on the edge of the hot seat as far as their conduct goes and stuff like that.
J.J. Watt, Jared Allen, play the game hard, play the game mean, not dirty. And Ndamukong Suh, more fines than a Daily Parker downtown.
It's pretty solid. I mean, I think the big thing is, though, like you said, the difference between college and professional is the college guy's not going to stand for it. He's got 83 other guys he can go. He's got 82 other guys he can find to do something with. I think the NFL being a job makes it a totally different look at things of saying, I gotta earn my keep, whatever my keep is. Even if I do get fined this measly $10 or $12 or $15,000, it's probably going to be worth it, because then I'm going to get recognized and then I'm going to get paid. So in the end, I think the guys look at the money and say, well, it's worth it in the long run for me to be a dirty player, because I'm going to make more through my career. I think that's kind of has a little bit to do with it too.
Absolutely. My main takeaway from it, and this whole subject, you look at prep level football, collegiate level football, this just simply is not an issue. We've got the targeting call, which is subjective, and we all know how, especially in ACC country, referees can be, but you just simply, dirty play in college football is not tolerated, because you've got a 4 or 5 star guy in some cases waiting right behind you to take your spot, and the coach doesn't put up with it. And I just think that I'm hearing a lot of excuses and a lack of accountability in the NFL with this whole evolution of new age tackling, and it's just kind of going one ear and out the other for me, because what I'm seeing on the field is just a complete lack of technique. And, you see plenty of other guys on Sundays making plays the right way.
Okay, so here's a question for you, because it goes for both of y'all. So fines now can be up $50,000 to $100,000. Do you think increasing fines will even help it, or what do you think needs to be done? Do you think harsher penalties, possible long-term suspensions, make a statement? Does Goodell need to make a long-term suspension on some player, target him to make him go out for 6 games if it's possible? Does that have to be done, or can a monetary value take into place as far as increasing fines?
Daniel?
Honestly, I think the monetary value is not that big of a deal, because when you look at, you're a player, you're a high player, most of the time you have a shoe contract, most of the time you got some kind of contract with a local team, local business. You're getting money in means, so it's going to take care of that. I think the end means is looking at games. If you start taking games away from them, they're going to figure it out. You look at James Harrison. he took 2 games from him. He finally figured out I can't do this anymore. Like, he's going to start taking games, and that's going to cost me more in monetary means, and then people are going to look at me as a dirty player. So then, it costs me character-wise, let alone the money per game and everything. I think that's a big thing. But, I mean, I don't know if the NFLPA is going to let you suspend somebody for 6 games for a hit. I mean, you'd have to paralyze the guy pretty much for them to give you 6 games.
True. And like I said 6 games, I was, just like a random number. It could be, 3 or 4, but.
My opinion on it, if you're driving down I-40 and you see a do not litter sign, fine of $10, most people are going to pay no attention to that and throw a cup out. These $5,000 and $10,000 fines are ridiculously, they're laughable. I think I agree with Daniel that being that, money is of not much consequence to most of these guys, I think you are going to have to look at games. And, it's like I said, we are just halfway through the season now, and good old Mr. Merriweather, who I've harped on this segment, how much longer is the man going to be allowed to play? Continuing repeat offender is a real ginger term for this guy. And, yes, the NFL Players Association may have something to say about long-term suspensions, but if it's written into the league rules and bylaws of the NFL, that's something that they, have to abide by as well. So I agree that, if you can't hurt their pocket, you've got to hurt their ability to perform on game day, because it's getting ridiculous, and it's the same core group of guys every Sunday.
Definitely have to agree. I think definitely the fact of taking games away is what's going to happen, because I think because that if the players on the sideline, that TV cameras are going to film them on the sideline, and they're going to know that they're being filmed on the sideline, knowing exactly why they're not on the field and why they're in their sweats. They're holding a clipboard, having an earpiece in their ear. I think that's a very good point that both of y'all have made, and something that I'll have to agree on as well. As far as taking games away is going to be the key to help lesson learned.
Well, Ben, they can't be at the facility if they're suspended, so they won't even get any FaceTime on the camera or anything. So that's another thing. You can't be at the facility for that game. As soon as game day is, you can't be at the facility. So, but I mean, just like you said, you got to take games. And
I was just going to say, Daniel, you can't forget about the old Marvin Alston option of purchasing your own ticket and wearing a bright green shirt, which would likely get you airtime. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
that would be pretty solid idea too. Also, I mean, I don't know why I didn't think about that.
That's true, and like I said, and these players can pay to get a luxury box or something like that. And that's a good point, because I actually forgot that you can't be on the sideline, but these players can find a way, and even if they don't make it in the game, the commentators are still going to talk about them. I mean, that's whenever Daniel, as well as I know, there's dead air time. You need to fill up with useless information sometimes. So that's the perfect time to, oh, by the way, so and so is out of this game, and Trey's watching the game from home, and then they can get into a whole dialogue as far as talking about why they're not there. So they're going to be talked about, and that's the best thing to do. If you give them a slap on the wrist, $5,000 fine, that's a cookout trade to you and I. I mean, that's maybe. I mean,
which shall never be undervalued.
No, are you kidding me?
Shout out to David Morgan.
We'll get him on it. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with a cookout tray. Hopefully, they can sponsor us one day. But do you have any closing thoughts, Andy or Daniel, as far as we've talked about different types of tackling, different types of plays, different types of players, different types of outcomes. Is there anything you'd like to add in or chime in before we close up this segment of Driveway Talk with culture and tackling NFL? Daniel, we can start with you, then we'll go over to my brother.
All right. Well, I mean, I think honestly, we've come up with this theory that it's an NFL problem. It's a shield problem, quote unquote, not to use that fancy term, but I think it's the thing where you look at, you got to start taking games from guys, but at the same time, the offensive guy's got to he's got to be somewhere penalized too. It's not just all a defensive thing. It's not, hey, you're the defender, so we're going to flag you. Wait, we need to start looking at the offensive guys saying, okay, well, he was aiming for this, but he accidentally hit him here. It's an accident, but at the same time, you've got to stricken the rules and make games count. I mean, take a game, take 2 games. I mean, you're never going to get up to 4, 5, or 6 because the Players Association is never going to let that happen because they want to pay their bills too. But I think honestly, the biggest thing is, like Andy said, you got to teach these guys how to hit. Like they've got to know how to hit, and they've got to know how to look up. And I think a lot of it they don't have a chance to practice because of the new players agreement. Also, they don't have that opportunity to have that physical hitting, and not that they don't know what they're doing anyways, but to narrow down and to strengthen their hitting skills is a big thing, I think, also.
And now, if Andy, you want to close with your thoughts after the great points made there by Daniel.
Sure. I completely concur with everything Daniel said. I think that my key word for our whole discussion is accountability. Every single player that steps on a field Sunday knows how to play football. They know technique. They're choosing not to utilize it. I think attention needs to be paid to both sides of the ball. And until these guys have a real sense of loss, what they could lose playing this style of ball, what potential penalties could be, I think we'll continue to see these repeat offenders continue to, even score in the NFL, such as going intentionally low. I haven't heard one person come out and say, I'm going for the numbers, I'm going for the waist. So I'd like to see more of that, and I think that things generally tend to work themselves out with this league. Too much money to be lost with a problem, another lockout, worry, or anything like that. And I think this eventually will get worked out, but I certainly don't think it's just a defensive issue. And I also think that the game we all love can remain as strong as ever with just a little tweaking and attention. And I'd like to send a special shout-out to a little town on the side of the Fox River and wish Aaron Rodgers' collarbone a good weekend and a lovely recovery week. And let's shoot for Thanksgiving. And we desperately need you.
Hopefully somebody in Green Bay will hear that. We'll put in the tags Green Bay, and one of my good friends from Wisconsin, he's a Green Bay fan, so I'll share this link with him. Maybe he can share it. But that's all the time we have here for episode 3, parts 2 and 3 of Driveway Talk. Once again, I'm Ben Johnson alongside Daniel Sippy and our first guest speaker, Andy Johnson. Wish you all a great week and a great time watching sports this week. Stay tuned for next week. We'll be talking about possibly paying college athletes. Get more into that next week. Until then, thanks for listening.